I was just trying to sell my art, and so this African dude had came up to me and asked me about what I was doing and all that, and I told him I was selling my art. And he said that people don't really understand my sign and that it looks like I'm just begging and trying to get a handout. Which, for one, I look 12 anyway, and everybody who sees me originally thinks I'm 12 or 14. So I don't even really look old enough to work, which apparently, supposedly in this state, wait a minute, you need a work permit till up until you're 18. So basically till 17. And to even get a work permit, your school has to sign off on it, because the point of a work permit is basically to say that if you start working, your grades won't start falling, and also that your grades aren't already bad. Which is why it was really stupid to me that I was being told I needed a work permit since I had already finished school. So I don't even really know. Well, no, it was true. I didn't believe it at first, but then I Googled it. Which, of course, I wouldn't have been able to work anyway as a missing person. But, so, anyway, back to the point. I was selling my art, and the dude told me that, and this has been an issue. This has been an issue in the different states that I've went to. And it's like, dang, wait a minute, I'm choking a little. It's like, no matter how big I write the letters, people don't read my signs. And then sometimes it may really not be visible. But the thing is, of course you wouldn't know that, but I'm just saying, I am not the person to ask people for money. For one, asking people for stuff is never gonna work. And for the people who it does work for, maybe it's when they get lucky. But I know that doesn't work. And I learned that really, really young. I remember when I was 11 and 12 and stuff, I would be going places trying to get jobs. And then I would be almost in tears because I would keep getting told that I wasn't old enough to work, because I didn't want to go to my parents and ask them for stuff or depend off of them either. Because one thing that I learned really young is that wait a minute, was it? I think it went like this. I used to say, if you can't do something yourself, it won't be done at all. And then some other sayings I can't really remember. But yeah, so people never read signs, because I am never gonna panhandle. I'm busking now, because that's what it's called when you're like selling something, or when you're like standing on the side of the road playing a guitar or dancing, which I would never do those types of busking anyway, because I feel like that's also really close to just begging and just asking people for stuff. But I had to build up the courage to even hold up the sign to sell my art, because I was even embarrassed to do that, until I eventually gave in, because I knew that like it was the only way I was going to make money. I mean, other than all the other crazy ways that people want you to fall into, which I wouldn't and would never do. But yeah, so when I was in Georgia and Alabama, I would hold up signs asking people to buy from my Redbubble, which I wouldn't do here, because I already know that the people around here wouldn't like the stuff in my Redbubble because of racial reasons and other stuff like revolving around trafficking and what a lot of the rich people around here do to get money. So, I mean, of course, people are doing this stuff in other places, but especially here, I already know that this is the last place to promote my Redbubble. So I just decided to start selling art. But like, when I was doing the whole Redbubble thing in Alabama and Georgia, it didn't work at all pretty much, because people either weren't reading my sign, or people would say that they would look at it, but they obviously wouldn't look at my account. But I mean, I tried. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I guess I'll title this, whenever you see somebody quote unquote panhandle and you're holding up a sign, actually read the sign. Because, like, for one, when people don't read the sign, it draws a lot of questions. Like, I remember when I was trying to get people to buy from my Redbubble, back in Georgia, this one dude asked me where my parents were and where I live. And that's something that I've never understood ever since I was really, really young, like 9 and 10. I never understood why people always feel like because you want to like be an entrepreneur, try to make money, that automatically means that somebody's doing something to you or you're hiding from somebody or something happened or something's happening that shouldn't be just because you want to work. But yeah, when people are prostituting and stuff, nobody asks those questions because the people asking those questions are the same people that'll go to the child prostitutes because they really don't care anyway. And oh, then this other thing, assuming that everybody who's trying to sell something outside or is holding up a sign or everybody who's in a bad predicament or poor or whatever is on drugs is like really trifling because then it gets people to like, okay, wait a minute, it makes people see someone like me who's trying to sell my art, and instead of buying something or not buying something, they start giving me a whole bunch of food that I can't even eat anyway because it's either already old or it's just something that wouldn't even sit right with all the health issues I have going on right now, which of course, I mean, I have to eat whatever anyway, but this is something that's mentioned a lot in like vagabond, traveling, and homeless support groups, how people will like need money to buy some new shoes or to buy a bus ticket or get on the bus or whatever. But since people have their assumptions, people rather give them a whole bunch of food. Like this one person said, they're a vegetarian. But people who feel like everyone's on drugs who's not in the same predicament as they are will give the person McDonald's and stuff, a whole bunch of stuff that they can't even eat. And honestly, I wouldn't advise anybody to eat McDonald's, whether you're a vegetarian or not. Okay, wait a minute, because I'm looking for something. Last thing I have to say. So, I already know that in the type of area that I'm in, there's a whole bunch of... there's a lot of Willie Lynch syndrome house niggers everywhere, to be honest. But there's definitely a lot here. Especially the black men and women who, like, go out of their way to get with somebody because of self-hatred to have some mixed babies. And so, I was selling my art, and so this white lady who was married to this black dude or whatever, the people that Dr. Umar talks about, she had wind the window down, and she was laughing, and while laughing, she was like, shame on your parents. And it's like, that's a crazy assumption, because for one, most of the people around here, my age, who are homeless because they were kidnapped into the foster care system and then dumped out at 18 or even younger than that. And also, it goes along with people not reading the sign because the fact that I'm selling my art isn't a reason for somebody to make crazy bold assumptions. Or at least I don't think it is. But yeah, so that's exactly why this is going to be titled Read Signs or something like that. And of course, that's one of those ladies that feels like she's doing the kids a favor by being their mom instead of some black lady being their mom. Which there's a lot that I could say about that because a lot of these generational curses of the Jezebel spirit that even makes people have narcissistic family systems and stuff is really just mirroring behavior of white supremacists, I feel, because the thing is, you'll never find a Jezebel, Leviathan, other marine spirit. A person with those. Wait a minute. A parent with those spirits, which are all the spirits that create quote unquote narcissism and also some other things, but narcissism especially. You'll never find a parent like that that's quote unquote black that isn't a Willie Lynch syndrome house nigger. You never will. They're always going to be the type to throw their kids into the racial system and hand them over. Like, it's almost like a way of taking their power back, which I mentioned this in some other video, maybe not on this channel, I don't even know, but they'll hand their kids over to the systems, like the mental health system that gives their sons the bad black boy with ADHD label, and then they'll play victim too. Well, no, that's not even really the point. The point is they do Willie Lynch syndrome house nigger stuff. And there was a point I was trying to make. Basically, you won't find a narcissistic, quote-unquote, black parent that doesn't act like a white supremacist. I think that was my point that I was supposed to be getting to before I forgot what I wanted to say. Well, I made $27. I'm trying to save up money right now to buy some wheels because I'm making a scooter for a class project. But yeah, anyway, so she feels like, she being that white lady, she feels like she's the mixed kids gift mom. I don't even know what that wasn't coming out right. But yeah, that dude will find out though. The moment she gets mad and lets him know that she doesn't even really like him and she just likes BBC. And also, another thing that I can say before I stop recording is that mixed kids don't have experiences that are any different from somebody who grew up, well, I mean, sometimes they're worse, honestly, but they're not much different than person like me who grew up in a narcissistic family system where there was a whole bunch of Willie Lynch syndrome house nigger stuff and some self-hatred here and there. So yeah, her kids, if she hasn't had any or if she does already have them, I don't know if that made sense, but either way, her kids are gonna be in for something. Hopefully they'll escape. And then, not to mention the whole white savior foster parents that go to Asia and Hawaii and Africa and a whole bunch of other places to adopt kids of different ethnicities and then keep them from dating people who are the same ethnicity as them, and then they sex traffic them and do a whole bunch of racial sexual fetishizing them. And yeah, so she can say what she wants. And the thing is, those are the types of quote-unquote black people that I will always avoid. Dudes who are in relationships like he is. They're also always the type to just also think I'm just begging for money and roll their eyes at me. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. It's just something I remember. And it's not even just what she said, it's the way she said it and then the situation that made it what it was. And it all was an assumption at the end of the day because people aren't even reading the sign. Because I never say that I'm homeless. I never say any of that stuff. And she's going to have some kids that are going to be some mixed kids that are going to be telling their story on the internet about having a white mom and a dad who hates himself.